Is your morning blood sugar starting to creep up, but your doctor's saying that's just fine? Well, I'm not a diabetic, and I don't intend to get there, but I am a nurse, and I have worked with a lot of people helping them get healthier over the years. What I understand is that things can creep up on you, and then you get to a point, I call it the brink. You know, you don't suddenly fall off a cliff. You usually gradually drift towards the edge, boom, and then you fall. And then you wonder what happened. Well, there were warning signs along the way. And I found those warning signs in my own life, much to my surprise. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about it and what I learned from it and how I can help you get better too. And if you hear the word brink, or you want to comment below the word brink, I will send you a free PDF document that lists what my routine is. So 2 years ago, unfortunately, very sadly, my husband passed away of a heart attack. I was devastated. And anyone else that's gone through a loss in their life knows the feeling. You've got to get control of yourself. And what I said was, I'm going to be strong. So I immediately joined a tennis club. I play tennis 3 times a week. I started rucking, which is a heavy backpack. I went back to the gym. I started doing the weights 3 times a week. I also bicycle and swim. I paddleboard. And at 78, I feel pretty great. I feel like I'm 28 actually. And I plan to live for many more years in my life. However, I'm not going to reach those years, 20, 30, or whatever years from now, in a healthy state unless I take control of my health now. Well, as I was coping with the loss of my husband, in addition to staying strong from a physical point of view with the weights and all the other activities I was doing, I also, did some meditation to help me with my mind and my spirit. And I said, I've got to make sure I eat really healthy food. I cook all my own meals anyway. I never eat junk food. So I just focused on eating really healthy foods. Now, sometimes what people consider as healthy can affect you in a negative way, depending on your body. There's protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Those are the main things that you eat. Did you know that your body makes its own carbohydrates? So we don't actually have to eat any carbohydrates to live. We only need to feed our body protein and fat. But let's face it, we love to eat carbohydrates. Most people eat between 200 to 300 grams of carbohydrates in a day. What I learned is that to control my blood sugar, I needed to be down to more like 20 carbs a day. And how did I find this out? I did some research online and I found a wonderful doctor, Dr. Annette Bosworth. She's called Dr. Boz, very affectionately. She is about 55 years old. She's in Tampa, Florida, and she specializes in helping people get healthy, reduce their insulin resistance. Now, what is insulin resistance? Well, when we eat food, it triggers the pancreas to release insulin, which is a hormone. And insulin is supposed to take the glucose from that food and put it into our cells so that we nourish our body. But if we have too much glucose in our food or too much glucose swimming around because we never stop eating, then the insulin, it keeps pumping and pumping, but then it just gets overwhelmed. It's now resistant to what it's supposed to do. It's a lot like going to a rock concert and the noise is so loud that your ears start resisting. They don't hear as well later. So with insulin resistance, what happens is your body gets inflamed. Your brain gets inflamed. All parts of your body get inflamed, which is a very dangerous situation because if you have everything inflamed and you get sick a lot worse, a lot faster. So what the solution is to keep your glucose low by reducing the amount of carbohydrates that you take. So what I did with Dr. Boz, and she has a book, also she has the Keto Continuum, It's a book that she wrote. The first book was Any Way You Can. Great books about what she did with helping her mother who had cancer regain her health. So when I heard what Dr. Boz said about the 20 grams of carbs a day, I was all in. And for me, any fruit whatsoever causes my blood sugar to spike. Some people apparently can eat a few berries and that doesn't bother them. Not me. Lucky me. If I eat any fruit at all, even berries, my blood sugar goes through the roof. So I decided a month ago that I would stop all fruit until I got my weight down, because over that 2 years that I was coping and eating wonderful healthy meals, I gradually put on 30 pounds, which is so unlike me. I feel very uncomfortable. Therefore, by lowering the glucose that I was eating, I also wanted to raise the ketones. Now, the ketones are produced by the liver, but if your liver is overwhelmed by too much glucose, it's not going to produce any ketones either. How do you know what your blood glucose is and what your ketones are? I have a meter. This is called Keto Mojo, and I'll put a link below where you can get it. And what it does is you get a little, I call it a stabber, but that's how you prick your finger. And then you have there's one for ketones, one for glucose. And these sensors go in here and they show you when you prick your finger and get the blood out, it shows you your ketones and it shows you your blood glucose. Your blood glucose usually is higher in the morning because of something called the dawn effect. When you first wake up in the morning, your cortisol level goes up to get you ready for the day. And so it starts the engine running and your glucose starts being produced. So that means that usually first thing in the morning when you wake up, your glucose is a bit higher. And then as you burn your energy throughout the day, your glucose levels generally go down. Unless you keep eating nonstop all day, then your glucose levels will never go down. Some people wear a continuous glucose monitor. You've probably seen them on the back of some people's arms, and that can measure glucose. There is no such thing for ketone yet. I'm sure they'll come out with that eventually. But that's just when you use a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM for short, that's really measuring your interstitial fluid. It's not as accurate as pricking your finger. So there can be as much as a 20% variance in the readings between pricking your finger and a CGM. I personally prefer to just prick my finger. It's not a big deal. So anyway, when you see your glucose going up, you want to nip it. Now, how did I do that? With Dr. Boz's protocol, her keto continuum, she said that if you want to really kickstart your liver to be able to produce ketones again, as you're trying to bring your glucose down, you can take what's called exogenous or out of the body ketones. Your body produces its own ketones, but you can actually drink ketones. And that's what I'm drinking right now. There are ketones in here. The ketones that I use are by Dr. Boz. This comes in a powder form. So you can see it's white. The flavor is raspberry lemonade. If you did not have a flavor, then you almost would not be able to tolerate the taste of these ketones. So she has different flavors. There's a lemon one and so on. But I like the raspberry lemonade. So I just use 1 scoop in water, or else you know how I like it too, is chilled coffee. So I make extra coffee in the morning, put it in my fridge, and then sometimes I'll mix my ketones in that. But then I just sip on it throughout the day. Don't chug-a-lug it. This lasts for about 3 or 4 hours, and it quickly actually, raises your ketone level. What does that do for you? It sharpens your mind, gets rid of the brain fog, gives you energy, and it burns fat. It burns my fat. So I make sure that I lower my blood glucose by keeping my carbs under 20 grams a day, and I take those ketones, drink my ketones, and that helps me burn my fat. Now, one other thing that's very important to kickstart your liver into doing more of its own work to make those ketones, you can do those exogenous ketones, but you can also go on what she calls a special kind of fast. Now, if I told you that this one food, if you eat it 72 hours, will dramatically reduce your blood glucose, it will raise your ketones, it will give you tremendous energy, and it will help reverse that insulin resistance. What do you think that food is? It's not kale, and it's not quinoa. It is sardines. Now, before you wrinkle your nose and say, oh, I can't eat that, think about it for a minute. What is your health worth to you? This is probably the most nutritious food on the planet. Some people will say, no, that's eggs, or that's steak, or that's something else, but fish, specifically sardines or mackerel in a can. This is almost like magic. She says, just eat this for 72 hours and see what happens at the end of those 72 hours. So I did that, and sure enough, my ketones came up, my blood sugar went down, I felt great, I had so much energy. So I do it every week from Wednesday to Friday for 3 days, 72 hours. I eat nothing but sardines. Now, why are sardines so great? First of all, these are little fish, so don't worry about the mercury because they're just too small to get much in at all. But they have tremendous amount of complete protein. This can has 18 grams of complete protein. It has essential minerals. It has a whole lot of omega-3 fatty acids and lots of calcium because it has bones in it. Now, thinking of the bones, remember when they cook this to put it in the can, it's pressure cooked. So what does that do to the bones? It makes them soft. So you can easily eat the bones and the skin, and that will give you tremendous amounts of calcium, and plus a lot of other vitamins and minerals in this. It's just the most nutritious package of food. Very inexpensive. They come in different ways. I kind of like the extra virgin olive oil, but I get them in water sometimes. You can get them in hot sauce. You can get them in mustard. Actually, what I do, just to liven it up, is I squirt some yellow mustard on it and sprinkle some salt and pepper. And sometimes I'll sprinkle some other spices on it. I've tried doing it in the fast fry, but in a fry pan just to crisp them up, or air fryer, you can do that too. And that's okay. But for me, I would just as soon put them in a dish and eat them. Now, sometimes it gets a little boring. So what I do, and this is another I will call miracle that works so great, brought to us by Dr. Jonathan Karp. A few years ago, Dr. Karp went to Japan on a business trip, and he noticed that the Japanese were eating special noodles. They call them shirataki noodles. They're made from the konjac plant. And when they make them into noodles, there are no carbohydrates, unlike the regular noodles that we eat now. And who doesn't love noodles? So he came back to America, and he came up with his own way of introducing them. And his company is called Miracle Noodle. And I've seen him interviewed about this. And I've investigated it. Now, they come in different shapes and sizes. I happen to like the fettuccine, but they come in spaghetti sizes and even rice sizes. So what they look like, they're just white, clear. And you drain this package, and then they're long strands. So I just cut them with some scissors and put them in the bottom of a bowl, maybe 1 or 2 ounces. Then I put my sardines on top of that with the olive oil and the spices and the mustard. And then I eat it. And I kind of feel like I'm treating myself when I have these noodles. And again, yeah, I'll put a link in the bottom so you can get yours too. But they are tremendous. As you can see on the package, for one serving, if you had a whole serving, it's 5 calories and 1 net carb. But I don't even have a full serving. I just have an ounce or 2 of it. But you don't have to do that, but I recommend that you try it anyway if you like to do that. One of the things that happens when you start going on this sardine fast and lowering your your blood sugar is that the insulin drops, and as the insulin goes down, it flushes out water, which is part of the reason why you lose some weight, because you're losing water weight. Well, when you flush out the water, you're also flushing out these electrolytes from your body. I noticed on day 2 that I was starting to get leg cramps. So according to Dr. Boz, she said, well, if you're losing electrolytes, replace them. These are the electrolytes that I use. They're from a company called Body Health, but the Perfect Amino electrolytes, they actually have some Perfect Aminos in with the electrolytes. So at night, before I go to bed, I take a glass, I put in a scoop of this, and they come in different flavors. This one I like is passion fruit. And then I also put my creatine powder in. Especially as you get older, as soon as you get 30, your muscles start shriveling up by 1% to 2% every year. So by the time you get to my age, 78, if I didn't do something really proactive about keeping my muscles strong, I would be hard-pressed to climb upstairs, get off a chair, carry my bags of groceries, and so on. So one of the things that I do, apart from exercising, is I take creatine every day. And there's a lot of research, thousands of research papers on creatine. It was originally thought that it was just good for muscles. But what is now understood is that it stimulates your brain. So you improve your brain health as well. And I'm all for that. So this particular creatine is white, and I just take 2 scoops. 1 scoop is 5 milligrams, but I take 2 scoops. 5 milligrams is minimum, but to do a lot of good, really make the extra effort for your brain and so on, I take 10 milligrams a day. Some people take 20. Some people take 5 in the morning, 5 at night. I just take 10 before I go to bed. It also helps with sleep, along with the electrolytes. And I also quite often will add some glycine into the mix too. I have a glycine mixture that I buy, and there's a book called The Glycine Miracle, which I'll put a link to in the show notes. But the glycine is an amino acid that your body makes, and it helps control inflammation. And that's what we're trying to do by lowering our blood sugar, lowering the insulin. We're trying to lower the inflammation throughout our body. So glycine helps with that. But as we get older, we don't produce as much glycine as we used to. So before I go to bed, I'll also add some glycine I usually put it into some hot tea, because I have a hot tub bath with some Epsom salts and relax, do some meditation, sip on my sleepy time tea with my glycine mixed in. And I'll put a link below to the 2 glycines that I use. There's one called sweet amine, because glycine itself, a naturally sweet flavor with that amino acid. There's no added sugar. But the sweet amine is prepared by a certain doctor, and he adds taurine to it, which is also very good for your brain. So I like that one particularly. But I also, can just use plain glycine. So these are my hacks, if you will, for maintaining a healthy body, reducing inflammation, and also reducing my blood sugar. Remember, if you say Brink or put Brink into the word Brink, B-R-I-N-K, into the comments below, I'll send you a free list of what I do, my hacks and my routine. So you don't have to remember what I just said, but if you can just print it out, it'll be free of charge, of course. And then now that I've been doing this sardine fast, Dr. Boz also says you can go on a water fast, and I have done a water fast where nothing but water for 3 days. That is also very, very effective in lowering your glucose levels and your insulin levels and raising your ketone levels. But Dr. Boz advises that you get your body in shape more using the sardine fast and low carb for a month or 2 before you start trying to do a 3-day water fast. The thing about a 3-day water fast is it's very effective, but it can affect your muscles. And if you're concerned about that at all, don't do the water fast or check with your doctor. I also supplement with what's called perfect aminos, which gives you all the aminos all the amino acids that you need that you would normally get from eating food, and it does not break a fast. So, and it's by the same people as the produces these electrolytes. So I'll put a link to that too. But I take some perfect aminos, which gives me the amino acids that you would normally get from eating food. So instead of eating the food, you just swallow these amino acids and they go to work right away. And I like to do that before I exercise. If I'm going to play tennis or rucking or whatever, I'll swallow 5 perfect amino acid tablets, and then it's already working while I'm exercising. And then when I come back from my exercise, then I'll eat my meal, my eggs or whatever I'm having, and get that nourishment that way. That food that you eat breaks down into amino acids, but it takes a couple of hours to do so. So if you want to have the nourishment first thing in the morning without having to eat anything, you take the perfect aminos, and then it goes to work right away. So in summary, what we have is a way to get back from the brink. Remember, we slide slowly, slowly, slowly. Sometimes you see people in their 60s and 70s starting to look pretty bad. They're not as fast moving as they were. They're not as strong. And then when you see them in their 80s and 90s, they can't even get off a chair. That's very sad. They can prevent that by, before they get to the brink, to turn around, do a U-turn. We can always turn around at any age, any time. Just decide that your health is worth stepping it up, getting the exercise that you need, the strength training, taking certain supplements like I've been talking about, lowering your blood sugar, using 20 grams maximum carbohydrates per day, using the sardine fast, and even the water fast. And always check with your doctor. I am a nurse, but I'm not here as a health professional so much as just relating my personal experience so that you can see and learn from it. I would love your comments below to tell me how you're dealing with your insulin resistance and what you think about my routine. And if you say Brink, of course, then you can download the free. And also, if you find this interesting, I would love you to subscribe, press the like button, share this with your friends, because sharing is caring. If you have someone, and I think at least 40% of people in the U.S. definitely have insulin resistance. It's probably much higher. It's probably close to 60 to 70% of people right now, just because we're eating all the wrong foods, we're not getting enough exercise, and our bodies are getting more and more sluggish. So we can take control. We don't have to wait for a diagnosis. We don't have to wait for a crisis. We don't have to wait until somebody else tells us what to do. We can decide, yes, I'm going to get back from the brink. I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to live a long and healthy life. Let me help you do that. Thank you for watching.